Hello and welcome to Professor Pincushion. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how you can create your own sock mouse. He's really cute and really easy to do. Now this sock mouse is a companion to our sock cat because if you're like me, you have a little bit of leftover sock to use. Let's go ahead and get started. Here are some of the supplies I'm going to be using in order to create my sock mouse. The first thing is I have the bits of my sock that was left over from creating my sock cat. I have a little bit of felt. Now this felt, the only thing I need to cut out is going to be the mouse ears. We have a pattern here. Out of this pattern, you need to cut 2 out of the felt. We also have a pattern for the mouse body. Now both of these patterns are going to be available to download off our site. I also have 2 beads for the eyes. This is optional. You don't have to do eyes, and you can really do any size beads you want. A little bit of yarn, I'd say about 5 inches or so. This is going to be for the tail. Embroidery floss, about 12 inches. We have all-purpose thread, some polyester stuffing, fabric marker, fabric scissors, and pins and needles. The only thing not shown here is going to be my sewing machine. The first thing we're going to do is create the body of the sock mouse. So I have my pattern piece here and my leftover sock piece. The right side of the sock is on the inside. It's folded in half. Here's a fold line right here. I take the body, and on the straight edge, this gets placed directly onto the fold of the fabric. I'm then going to draw an outline of the pattern using my fabric marker. Now there's a couple of marks here. We have these X's, which I'm going to transfer because these are going to represent the area that we're going to leave open so we can fill our sock with stuffing. And then I have this circle right here, which is going to be for where we're placing the tail. So the tail is basically just going at the bottom. Once you go ahead and transfer that, go ahead and put in some straight pins. This is just so we can make sure that the fabric's not going to shift and everything's going to stay in place because we're not actually going to cut this out. We're going to sew directly on the blue line itself, just because it's just a small piece of fabric, and I don't know about you, but my sock tends to roll quite a bit, so it just makes it a little bit easier. Now before I pin all the way down to the bottom, I'm going to go ahead and place the tail, and it's going to be placed on the inside, so we're not going to see it. And this is about 4 inches or so, just depends on how long you want the tail to be. I'm just going to wrap the first part of it up so we can make sure it's going to stay out of the way. Open up your fabric, place the yarn inside the middle of the mouse because we're going to make sure the only part we're going to sew is going to be this part. So I'm taking this end of the yarn and I'm going to place it so it lines up with the bottom of the fold line, and the end of the yarn is about right here. It doesn't have to be perfectly flush with the line. In fact, I like it to be extending just by a little bit. And then just push it down and make sure that you're only sewing the single strand of yarn and not the rest of it. So when we turn it right side out, the tail's going to end up sticking out. And then I can go ahead and finish pinning it, take it to your machine, and just sew directly on the line. For sewing my seam, I'm actually using a ballpoint needle, I'm using all-purpose thread, and I'm just doing a regular straight stitch. Now remember we had those marks on our patterns for the X's where we need to keep an opening in order to put our stuffing, so we need to make sure that we don't sew the mouse completely. I've marked those X's with yellow pins here. So I'm just going to sew my seam until I get to my first yellow pin, about right there. I'm going to do a back stitch. Okay, and then I'm going to cut my threads and then go up to my second yellow pin and start sewing again. So everything between those yellow pins, there's not going to be any stitches. Next, we're going to trim the excess fabric away from our outline. So you're going to take your scissors, you're not cutting directly on the blue line, otherwise you'll cut your stitches. So make sure that you're cutting about 1/8 of an inch away from the line. You're going to trim all the way around the mouse. So we're getting rid of all this extra fabric. Through the opening, you're going to flip the mouse right side out and fill it with your stuffing. When I have enough stuffing in the body, I'm going to slip stitch the hole closed using a needle and thread. So this is going to be done by hand. Now I'm actually starting with a contrasting thread. Go ahead and use a matching thread. I just want it to be a little bit easier for you to see. So I'm going to start on one side and try to do it from underneath so then your knot gets hidden inside the mouse once it's sewn closed. And then I'm going to grab a little bit on the other side. Now you just want to be careful that you're not grabbing your fabric too close to the edge because we don't want it to tear. I'm coming in a little bit just to make sure that it's going to hold. And then as I do my first stitch, you're gently going to pull it so it's going to be closing as you're stitching it. Now I'm going to grab a little bit of the other side. Again, make sure you don't go too close. And this time I'm pulling in the opposite direction. So you'll see it start to close up. So now I'm going to go this side and then just back and forth until it's completely closed. Now we're going to move on to creating the ears, and the first thing I want to do is add some shape so they look like this. They look like a little petal. You're going to take your ear and some needle and thread, and the ear is going to be folded in half. And we're just going to sew a couple of stitches at the base of the ear. I'm going to start by going on the inside of the ear at the very bottom. And this is just so our knot is going to be hidden on the inside. Then I'm just sewing directly through the fold. And you can see I'm staying pretty close to the edge. So you're doing sort of a whip stitch. And the stitches are going to go over the fold side. And I would do this about maybe 4 times just so that it's secure. And then just tie a knot. And then your ear will be done. So don't forget, you need to do it twice for both ears. Let's go ahead and sew our ears onto our body. I have straight pins in the back just going straight down through the ears into the body so I can make sure I like the placement. My ears are about 1.25 inches away from the nose, and I have my needle and thread all ready to go. So we're going to be doing a hand sewn whip stitch again, or at least it's similar to a whip stitch. So first thing I'm going to do is my stitch is going to be a little bit of the sock material first. So here it's just going through the sock. Then I'm going to go through the bottom of the ear. My ear is going to rotate a little bit here, but that's all right. Make sure you don't go too close to the edge and just pull it through. So the first couple of stitches might be a little difficult because your ear wants to move all over the place. Then I'm going to grab a little bit just of the sock underneath that ear. Pull it through gently, and then I'm going to go back through the ear. So I'm just changing positions, going through the ear, going through the sock, and back and forth until the ear is secured. Next, we're going to sew on the eyes, and you can see I already have one done, so I'm going to go ahead and show you how I do the other one. When I start, I have my needle and thread, but I'm going to start underneath the mouse. So that way the knot will kind of be hidden on the bottom. And then I'm going to come up to where I want the eye to be, and I'm trying to get it pretty close to be where my other eye is, or at least in the same position on the other side. All right, so there's my needle coming out, and just because it's easier, I'm going to go ahead and put my bead on. And then I'm going to go back down through the fabric and come out underneath on the back side of the eye, close to where my knot is. And when I pull it through, I'm going to make sure that I pull down a little bit, and you'll see that's going to make the eye look a little bit more sunken into the face, which I think makes it look a lot cuter. So I would do this stitch a couple of times and then secure the knot on the bottom. Our last step is going to be to add whiskers to the end of the mouse nose. Now this is going to be done with embroidery floss, and the number of strands I'm using is 3, but it's really up to you on how many whiskers you want to add. I'll show you how easy it is to do this. I have my needle and thread here, and I'm just going to grab a little bit of sock. You want to make the stitch as small as possible. And I don't have a knot on the end of my embroidery floss. So I'm going to pull it through until I have about 2 inches on the end here. There's the end. And then I'm going to cut off on this side, leaving about 2 inches on there as well. Then you're going to bring your strands together and you're going to tie a knot. So I create a loop, I bring one side through the loop, and then I tie a really small knot. Now I can just go ahead, trim off the whiskers for whatever length that you want it to be, and that's it. And if you want more whiskers, you can always repeat the process. And that's it. Now you have a completed sock mouse, and you can see it's really quick and easy to create. New tutorials are released weekly, so please subscribe to be notified of the next release. Make sure to check out our other videos and visit ProfessorPincushion.com to view our complete library with well over 200 sewing video tutorials, including our exclusive premium content. Our premium membership is only $5 a month for unlimited access and only available at ProfessorPincushion.com. Also, don't forget to download our mobile app for videos on the go. Thanks for watching.